having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. Funny thing about being fast, you end up waiting a lot. First to show up, first in line, then just waiting. Me, I rev up Chumba Casino. With over 200 social casino games, no slow lanes here. Why sit around when you can spin? I'm already racing. Your turn. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome, everyone. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the material you sent over about Sinners, the upcoming Ryan Coogler film.
That's right. Starring Michael B. Jordan, of course.
And from everything we're seeing, this looks like it could be, well, pretty significant, maybe quite complex.
Absolutely. I mean, Ryan Coogler's track record, you look at Fruitvale Station, Creed, Black Panther, he consistently goes for stories with real substance, you know?
Yeah, they're not just surface-level films, so the buzz around Sinners feels pretty justified for anyone following his work.
Definitely.
And then you have Michael B. Jordan in the lead. Especially with Coogler directing him again. You just sort of expect something powerful. Right?
Oh, for sure. Their collaborations, they always deliver these really compelling characters we can connect with.
What's interesting, too, based on the material, is the genre. It doesn't sound like a straightforward thriller.
No, exactly. It seems like it might be digging more into morality, maybe even getting into some psychologically unsettling areas without being like a full-on horror movie.
Right, that ambiguity is interesting.
Yeah, it suggests the focus might be more internal, you know? The character struggles, their moral landscapes, rather than just, say, external plot mechanics.
And there's already a Sinners trailer out, which you've probably seen, and that obviously adds to the intrigue, gives us some early clues.
For sure. Trailers are designed to do just that, hint at the tone and the core ideas.
Okay, so let's dig into this. Starting with Coogler. His career path is fascinating, isn't it? From something really grounded like Fruitvale Station to the massive scale of Black Panther. What do you think Sinners might signal for him?
Well, it could be a shift, like you said, or maybe an evolution towards these more internal moral fights. His earlier stuff definitely dealt with justice and morality.
But often against external forces, yeah.
Exactly. Sinners feels like it might be plunging into the inner demons, you know? The personal fights with guilt, with transgression.
Do you think we'll see that same intensity he brings, but turned inward? I'm thinking about how he used close-ups in Fruitvale Station.
Yeah, that's a great point. He could totally apply those techniques to internal struggles here, maybe really focusing on Jordan's face, the micro-expressions, to show that guilt, that desperation.
And the material mentioned, the Sinners trailer, might hint at his visual approach, too. Maybe something grittier, reflecting that moral decay you mentioned.
Precisely. The look of a film is so key for atmosphere. If the trailer suggests a world that feels, I don't know, compromised, morally gray, that tells us a lot about the setting and the challenges.
Okay, let's talk Michael B. Jordan. The material suggests he's embodying the weight of transgression. There's even talk he might be playing a disgraced cop or someone with a dark past.
Yeah, or a compromised lawyer, maybe?
What kind of performance are you anticipating here, given the actor and the director?
Well, you expect something physically commanding, but also deeply emotional, right? He's so good at showing inner turmoil. Think about Killmonger in Black Panther.
Oh, absolutely. The pain beneath the surface.
Right. So maybe something similar here. A character really burdened by their past, showing vulnerability under maybe a tough exterior. This idea of him grappling with sins, yearning for forgiveness. It sounds like heavy psychological lifting.
It feels like a role that could show a different side of him, perhaps.
Yeah.
Now, the notes also mention a supporting character, Miles Caton. Sounds potentially important.
Yeah, and that raises the question of how the protagonist's internal stuff is reflected or challenged by others, doesn't it? Caton could be anything, really. A conflicted mentor figure, someone representing the past he's trying to run from.
Or maybe the opposite, like a relentless antagonist embodying the consequences.
Or even just another sinner offering a parallel viewpoint, a sort of cautionary tale, maybe.
And the material really stresses the whole supporting cast, how they light up the film's moral world. It even mentions archetypes. moral anchors, obstacles, victims, perpetrators. How do these typically work in a story like this?
Well, they give us different angles on morality, right? The
Yeah.
moral anchor might show what the protagonist isn't, highlighting how far he's strayed.
Okay.
Obstacles and allies, they obviously push the plot and test his choices. And then victims and perpetrators show the ripple effects, how one person's actions can spread out, create this cycle of harm.
Gotcha. Okay, shifting gears a bit. The sound. Ludwig Göransson is back as composer.
Which is huge news.
Yeah, an Oscar winner. His scores are always so distinct.
Yeah.
What are you thinking he might bring to a film called Sinners, with these themes of redemption and despair?
Well, Göransson is incredibly versatile. He can do that intense driving score.
Right, like in some of the action scenes.
But he's also amazing at capturing deep emotion. So for Sinners, maybe a mix. Some grit and tension for the suspense, definitely. But also maybe more soulful, melancholic themes for the inner pain, that longing for redemption.
He often uses motifs really effectively too, doesn't he?
Oh, totally. Like in Black Panther, the themes for Wakanda were so clear. Maybe here we'll get recurring musical ideas tied to guilt or forgiveness, perhaps starting subtly and growing as the story unfolds. The material even hints at maybe flickers of hope in the score.
And again, pointing back to the Sinners trailer as maybe giving us a first taste of that sonic world, that emotional weight.
Yeah, trailers often use key music cues to set the mood, so listening closely to the trailer's music could definitely give us some insight into Göransson's direction here.
Okay, let's circle back to that genre question. Not strictly horror, you said, but potentially psychologically disturbing because of the themes, the moral decay. How do you see that playing out tonally?
Well, the key is that difference between jump scares and just psychological unease, right? Sinners could create dread not through monsters, but through the weight of the themes themselves, consequences, guilt, corruption. That can honestly be more unsettling, stick with you longer than typical horror stuff.
And the material suggests a tone that's gritty, realistic, tense, but also emotionally heavy. It even mentions parallels to classic noir.
Right, and noir is often about blurred lines, isn't it? Good and bad aren't clear-cut. The protagonist often has a shady past, makes questionable choices.
In a pretty bleak, morally compromised world.
Exactly. That feels like the territory Sinners might be exploring. The focus is on the psychology of those choices, the fallout in that kind of dark setting. It naturally builds suspense and tension.
Okay, so let's try and piece together the narrative arc, hypothetically. Based on all this, what about the inciting incident? What could kick things off?
The material threw out a few possibilities. A past crime bubbling back up is classic noir, right? Forces confrontation.
Exactly.
Or maybe a moral crossroads moment. One bad decision starts the slide. Or even a personal tragedy that's somehow linked to past actions, sparking a quest for atonement, maybe. What feels most likely to you?
The past crime resurfacing feels really strong for exploring that theme of the past being inescapable, which the notes mentioned.
Yeah, it creates instant conflict, raises the stakes.
So if that's the spark, what's the spiral downward look like?
Well, his attempts to manage it, maybe bury it again, could just tangle things further, getting caught in lies, facing threats, battling his own guilt, getting worse.
Like quicksand?
Exactly. And the trailer probably gives us flashes of that escalating tension, desperate moments, confrontations.
The notes also talk about the tapestry of relationships shaping his journey. Paths to redemption, echoes of the past, mirrors of ambiguity. How vital are those connections in a story about sin?
Oh, absolutely vital. They provide the context, challenge him, offer potential ways out or ways deeper in. Maybe a compassionate character offers hope.
Well, someone else drags him back into old habits.
Right. Or characters who are morally gray themselves, making him and us question what's right and wrong. It adds layers.
And all this rests on those thematic undercurrents. The past being irreversible, morality being subjective, forgiveness being hard to find, the cycle of transgression. How do you see those playing out?
Through the character's actions, probably, and the consequences. The story might show how trying to escape the past just doesn't work. Maybe different characters clash over their moral codes, forcing us to see it's not black and white.
And the struggle for forgiveness.
Yeah, both forgiving himself and getting it from others. That's likely a huge emotional core. And the supporting cast, like we said, can show how these things repeat, how harm spreads.
Lastly, the notes mention pacing and atmosphere. Coogler taking his time for character work, but punctuating it with tension, all in this gritty, unsettling world. How does that shape the experience?
Well, that deliberate pace lets you really sink into the character's head, feel his struggle, right? Makes it more impactful.
Instead of just rushing plot points.
Exactly. But then you need those moments of tension to keep it moving, maintain that unease. And the gritty atmosphere, it just reinforces the moral weight, makes the journey feel dangerous, emotionally draining, that breaking point the material talks about.
Sweet.
Yeah. It sounds like it'll be an intense reckoning, a culmination of all that built-up pressure and conflict. Should be powerful.
So, wrapping up this deep dive into the material on Sinners, it really does sound like it has all the ingredients for something, well, potentially quite special.
Yeah, the Coogler-Jordan collaboration alone sets the bar high.
Absolutely. And this focus on guilt, redemption, the messiness of morality, it feels like the core of it.
For sure. The anticipation for the performances, Coogler tackling these darker themes, Göransson's score, it points to a film that could really make an impact.
It definitely makes you think, doesn't it? About why we're so drawn to these stories about sin, about the possibility of redemption. What is it about them that just resonates so much across time and cultures? Something to chew on while we wait for Sinners, I suppose. Thanks for digging into this with me.
My pleasure. Lots to look forward to.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Riley Herbst from 2311 Racing here, and you know what grinds my gears? Waiting for coffee. But instead of counting frappes and lattes, I fire up Chumba Casino. No apps, no fuss, just fun social casino games to pass the time. By the time my coffee's ready,
Order for Riley.
I've already taken a few victory laps. Next time you're stuck waiting, make it entertaining. Play for free at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.